What's going on, folks? I'm your host, Manpreet, aka MMA Lock of the Night, and your boy on Twitter at MMALOTN. And this week we're going over UFC Vegas, or not Vegas. I'm so used to saying Vegas for some reason. It's actually UFC 263, the headliner. We got Israel Adesanya defending his title against Marvin Vettori. This is the second time these guys have faced each other. And not to mention, we got another title fight on the slate as well. And that is a rematch as well between Deiveson Figueiredo and Brandon Moreno. So got a ton of great and fun fights on the card. But not to mention, but obviously to highlight, we have the two title fights there. Also, a first timer, first thing that we've ever seen is a non-title fight, non-main event 5-rounder. We're going to be getting between Leon Edwards and Nate Diaz. It's obviously the Nate Diaz effect there. The UFC succumbing to his wishes and giving him the 5 rounds that he wants to go out there and perform with against a high-level opponent like Leon Edwards. So interested to see how that one pans out. We got a potential of an hour and 50 minutes just based on 3 fights if they all go to a decision, which I all think they will. So be strapped in and ready to go because it's going to be a long ass main card. Got a couple other interesting names sprinkled out throughout the card. Bilal Muhammad taking a decent step up, fighting Damian Maia. Obviously, we know last time around he fought Leon Edwards to a no contest. Jamal Hill going up against Paul Craig. That's a little bit of a grudge match that I can't wait to see pan out. Drew Dober versus Brad Riddell. Sneaky dark horse fight of the night, I would say. And then we got the Eric Anders and Darren Stewart running it back again after Eric Anders unfortunately landed an illegal knee, which was obviously not on purpose. And that fight gets changed to a no contest, so they get to run it back again. The fight that I'm probably looking forward to the most is easily Hakeem Dawodu against Movsar Evloev. We know Evloev 14-0. Dawodu doing his own thing inside the UFC. Only lost his first ever fight, but has been streaking since then. Very interesting stylistic matchup that I can't break down for you guys. I can't wait to break down for you guys. So let's fucking go. Obviously, this stream is for the chat, right? Like I'll go through every single fight one by one, and then at the ending of each breakdown, I'll see what the chat is saying, try to take a couple comments and suggestions and questions just so we can interact a little bit. But my pre-recorded podcast is going to be dropping later this evening, where I've already gone over the card. That's where I do the fancy graphics, and as soon as I'm done researching the fight, I do the recording, so you guys get a little bit more of an in-depth breakdown on those streams rather than on that show rather than what you're going to be getting on this live stream. So shout out to you guys for all the support as always. I was away on the weekend for my wedding anniversary, my first wedding anniversary. Me and the wife got away, got a nice cottage about 4 hours away from where we're at. Beautiful, beautiful place. Trust me, I see my guy Justin Villegas saying, I thought you got killed by a bear or a moose. I had a lot of people on my Discord say the same thing. It did put me back a little bit in terms of where I wanted to be with my research and with the studying for this card. So everything was delayed a little bit this week, hence why we didn't get the podcast drop on Monday, hence why we didn't do the podcast on Tuesday. But scrounging myself together to get everything set and ready for you guys so that I can give you guys legitimate breakdowns and give you guys my picks for this upcoming card. But first and foremost, first thing that we always do is actually go over last events results. Obviously, no flashy or crazy graphics for you guys this time around on the live stream, but it will obviously be on the pre-recorded stream. So you guys are just gonna have to put up with the banners that I got for you guys right now. So shout out to you guys for bearing with me with that. I do want to remind you guys, please do hit that like and subscribe below. That's the best way to show your support. Appreciate that. So let's just go over the last results. UFC Vegas 28. You guys already know my approach. Lock the night play, dog the night play. That's it. As long as the lock the night play hits, we profit. We're in the green. We're doing good. And that's exactly what happened last time around. I had De La Rosa. Shout out to my guy Dan Goldstein here saying, I bet De La Rosa by TKO on yours. She had a kid, nice and early take. I don't know if that was a reasoning as to why I'm picking her to win by TKO, but it is what it is. Great win for her. She goes out there, cashes as a minus 250 favorite. So that's plus 2 units right there. I think on the props show, I ended up putting De La Rosa by decision as one of my 3 best prop plays. And then the next day, I pretty much just switched my mind and said we should take her inside the distance. I was either thinking sub more than KO, but then that KO line was just so fucking nice. So shout out to anybody that was able to get on that KO prop. I think it was in the plus 800, plus 1,000 range. I thought that was a solid spot for her to go out there and get a ground and pound finish. And then the dog and I play crashes. Trinaldo -1 unit there. My 2 other solid underdogs I was looking to take as official bets. I did take them as short notice bet, or sorry, untracked bets. Was Claudio Puelles. That comes through. Everybody was hating on me for that pick, and not to mention Kamuela Kirk, another guy that a lot of people were writing off just because he was coming in on short notice. But both of those plays come through untracked. But again, I can't brag about it too much since the actual dog of the night play that I made was Trinaldo. Shout out to Salikov. Solid work. He was the faster guy. Trinaldo just was whiffing on a lot of shots. And I don't know what it is, but at these old Brazilian guys just keep capturing my heart and making me think that they're able to go out there and pull off the victories. There might be another one on this card that you guys are going to be, come on, you haven't learned your lesson yet? But yeah, we'll get around to that fight when we get to it. But all in all, +1 unit on the event. That gives us 3 straight winning events. Once again, that's 14 out of 16 events that we've hit. It's been killing it. I'm so happy with how things have been going ever since I went back to my old school lock the night method. Again, go ahead, call me a square, call me a fish, whatever the fuck, but we cash in tickets. I don't mind playing chalk if I think it's worth it, and there are plenty of times that I think that it's worth it, and we're going to keep killing it. So shout out to everybody that's supporting your boy, as always. Like I said, 3 straight winning events, so if you guys know what my policy is, it's all my picks now are behind the Patreon wall. So if you want my official lock of the night play and dog of the night play, you guys got to go to the Patreon. It's simple. $5 a month, not ripping you off, not charging you an arm and a leg for it. I know I'm not the best capper out there, but I always do my best in terms of giving you guys my lock of the night play and my dog of the night play, and hopefully we continue to cash that as we go and move forward. So let's just see what the chat is saying quick, and then we'll jump into the card here. My guy Builds Mafia in the chat. Been a long time, my brother. Glad to see you there. Hopefully you stuck around since you sent that message about 20 minutes before I actually hopped on. Christian Rodriguez is saying Leon Edwards is a fraud. I can't wait to get into that to kind of disprove that. My guy Daniel Gossi is saying, good to see you weren't taken out by a Sasquatch. I definitely was not. My guy Tyler Paul in the chat as well. What's going on, brother? John Darville is saying, Izzy by sub, hot take. That is definitely a very hot take. He was awarded his blue belt, I think, recently by blue belt or purple belt by those guys over there at Atos. I want to say Andre Gaval was the one who gave it to him. So maybe that's something that he wants to work on there. Dan Goldstein knows what it is, bro. Happy wife, happy life. That's exactly what it is. UCF Rob in the chat saying, what's up? Hope you enjoyed your vacation. Trust me, it was fun. I wish it was a little bit longer, but I really, really enjoyed it. I can't wait to go back to that one spot. Hayden Schinderman is saying under 2.5 and Vendramini and Ziam fight. Not too bad. I don't mind that spot there. My guy Royal in the chat. What's going on? Stephen H. Green is saying Angry Marvin rocking back and forth. Sorry. Ugh, let me try that again. Angry Marvin rocking the backwards fight shorts might catch on. That was hilarious. I did see that. 13-1 on the De La Rosa TKO prop. That's absolutely insane. Planet Whisperer saying sup all. Wonder how many of these will become trilogies in the future. Yeah, you're right. I think there's a good chance. Dan Goldstein saying Sakai slapped me, but I broke even. Yeah, that was a rough one right at the end there. John Hess in the chat. What's going on, my brother? Noah Allen is saying why UFC betting sucks. Poyes wins on takedowns. Latifi won on takedowns. Marquand, sorry, dude. I thought Latifi and Poyes did good enough, like enough control and enough damage from on top. Whereas Marquand, I don't think he did enough work from on top, and Kirk did more work in the striking realm. Is what it is. My guy Michael Terminus is saying hello from Los Santos. Appreciate you stopping by. Brazil Fuel of Bitches. Okay. My guy MMA Genie in the chat. What's going on, brother? Carlos A. Getting back to it. Yes, sir. Bro, only a Finsky. I got 5 on it. Drum hella. If Herb Dean ref Tybura fight, he would have lost. Probably. Good point. MMA Genius saying he likes Ige as a dog. That card is not for like 2 weeks or next week, I think. Joseph Nussbaum is saying glad you're back safe, but appreciate it, brother. Happy to be back. MMA Kappa NZ, shout out to my guy here. Thought of you during the Poyes and Kirk fight, bro. I thought, man, he's going to be bummed when the first two options for Dog of the Night won and went to which Ronaldo. Yo, me hit Poyes points and Woodson parlay. Yeah, man. Trust me, I was really bummed when Ronaldo lost, especially knowing that I was so quite confident on those other two spots. Paulo D'Alessandro is saying Hammer Vendramini. All right. Felipe Collier should have been a 5-rounder fight of the night material. Shout out to my guy, George Medixopoulos. Richard Perez, Rosenstrike, cash me a nice 2K parlay. That's a good hit there, my brother. Cameron D, great job last week. Lost by a second on the big parlay on the main event. Had it going to the second. Damn, that sucks. Yeah. Drunk driver, not sure why people are saying Bozo got robbed. Clear 1-3 for Latifi, in my opinion. I thought Latifi won that as well. Killer G, irresponsible amount of money incoming on this UFC card. Be careful, my brother. I think there's a lot of valuable underdogs and live underdogs that could potentially cash here. All right, before I blow you guys' ears off, the wife will be home very shortly, which will cause Alfred to go into a little bit of a frenzy. So as soon as that happens, I'm going to mute my mic, let the wife take Alfred out, and then get back to the stream. I'm not sure exactly when that's going to happen. It will be just as much of a surprise for me as it will be for you guys. So I apologize in advance. Don't have your speakers or anything too loud. Otherwise, your eardrums might get bursted off because Alfred, even though he's a small wiener dog, he can definitely bark in a small room like this. So just be careful about that. All right. No further ado. Let's, without a further ado, let's get back to the fights here. And the first fight that we got kicking things off is my guy, Jay Collier, taking on Carlos Felipe. We got plus 150 on Jay Collier, minus 170 on Felipe. I see a lot of people already asking for Alfred. You know what? Let me show you guys Alfred real quick. He hasn't made an appearance on here in a while. Let me show him real quick, and then he's going to get up on out of here when the wife gets here. Alfred. Come here. Come here, buddy. Come on this side. Oh yeah. What's this? What's this? Oh, yeah. Oh, that's Alfred. The coolest little wiener dog you'll ever see. I'll go put him back down. Sorry for waking you up, Alfred. The people wanted to see you. Now he'll just slowly go back into his little turtle shell that we call a bed for him. All right. Hope you guys enjoyed that. There's Alfred, the dog of the night. All right. Yeah, Dan Goldstein saying boys thick. A little thick. A little thick. All right, let's get back to the actual fights here. Carlos Felipe going up against Jay Collier. I feel like I've become synonymous with Jay Collier's name, especially with calling him to beat Gian Villante last time around, which I was surprised more people were not on Jay Collier tonight. They just went out there and they just sometimes obviously Collier coming off that knockout loss to Tom Aspinall wasn't a good look for him, but people just count out fighters as soon as they get the a 1-round knockout. And obviously his physique was not all that impressive or anything like that, but I felt like he still had it in him to go out there and at least put together a decent MMA game. Good combinations, decent clinch work, couple takedowns, whatever it was. Jay Collier was still able to go out there and do that. And I feel like he's going to be able to do the same thing here with Carlos Felipe. Now, Felipe, I believe, is in between Gian Villante and Tom Aspinall. So we'll truly see how much Jake Collier truly has to give here. And I do think that he pulls it off, man. Felipe, he seems like a little bit of a bruiser, a guy that wants to go out there and show how big his dick is compared to his opponent by just swinging heavy bombs against his opponent. And, sometimes he'll miss by an inch, sometimes he'll miss by a mile, but, he throws with a lot of heat behind his shots. He wants to go out there and just stay in your face. He doesn't really like to mix in clinch work or takedowns or anything like that. He wants to go out there and try to knock your head off. Unfortunately for him, I just don't think he has the precision, power, and speed that Tom Aspinall has, which ultimately led to Collier's downfall. I don't think that Felipe will bring that same type of energy. Now, Felipe might be able to hit Collier quite clean, but I think that he's a little bit slower than what Aspinall brought to the table, and I feel like Felipe almost telegraphs his shot, his punches a little bit more than what Collier has seen in the past. So I believe Collier will be able to kind of roll with shots. I think he'll be able to get out of the way of the big shots and then just come back with his own volume. Like, I believe it was halfway through the first round against Ziam. You saw the distribution of strikes between head, body, and legs. And Collier was doing a really good job in terms of mixing everything up, consistent with leg kicks, body shots, head shots. And I think that's what's going to cause Carlos Felipe some issues here. I think the ability for Collier to mix things up as comfortably as he does is going to cause Felipe a little bit too much issues here. I did see somebody in the chat saying, Hayden Schinderman is saying Jake by decision plus 350. I like it. I don't think Collier finishes Felipe. I think Felipe is quite durable, so I'll give him the benefit of the doubt there. But even Collier at plus 150 here, I think it's decent. I think it should be closer to a pick 'em, so I think we're still getting value on Collier. I think the opener at plus 245 on Collier was an absolute joke. So shout out to anybody that got him better than plus 200. But even at this point in time, I think so he brings a lot to the table that there is to like. I don't think that he's going to get starched the way that Aspinall starched him. And that's why I like Collier, man. I think that he has the better overall game. And I think he can still go out there and make a little bit of noise in the heavyweight division. Maybe not to the point of making it into the top 10 or anything like that. But if you're going to give me like a Justin Taffa, a Felipe, a Jorgen De Castro, Gian Vellante, if you're going to give me those types of heavyweights and then give me Jake Collier at plus money, I'm going to take that. And that's why I like Collier here. Collier by decision, I think, is the best way to approach this fight. So once again, I got Jake Collier by decision. George Metaxopoulos going, who wins in a hot dog eating contest between these two? I'm going to say with Felipe, because he seems like a thick boy since birth, whereas Collier just added that trait recently. Jets Booty 69 Gaming, right on the nose here. Too many looping shots from Felipe, and I agree. He telegraphs it a little bit too much. Dan Goldstein, Collier does mix up his strikes better and more volume. I agree. Goldstein once again saying, I'm going to miss this fight though. Mid-level heavyweights are sus. Give me the guy that has plus money, and I'm happy. A. Loomis is saying Felipe hook to the body is mean. Collier's striking defense very hittable. Felipe is fast and hits hard. Carlos is my pick. His boxing not great, but not bad. All right, we'll see how that one goes. Carlos only has looping punches. I agree. While Leo Al Gadban, never say Castro name again. We finally got rid of him. Did he get cut? I don't recall if he actually got cut there. Justin Villegas saying, are you really doing a show at 6 too? I'm assuming by 6 you mean 9 p.m. Eastern. Yes, I'm doing a show at 9 p.m. Eastern, propping you up with Cody. So make sure you guys stick around. And watch that one as well. If you guys haven't already, please do hit that like. That definitely helps your boy out. All right, let's move on to this next fight here. And we have Ferris Ziam going up against Luigi Vendramini, minus 135 on Ziam and plus 115 on Vendramini. I just feel like I can't get the right read on Vendramini. Decent ground game, heavy hitter as we saw in his last fight against Justin Ariari. And then with Ziam, you got a guy that seems to like to strike at distance, stick and move type of approach. But both guys don't give me much confidence. I'm ultimately going to be on the Ziam side here, as I do think that he'll be able to stick and move a little bit better than what Vendramini is going to be bringing to the table to kind of impose his will. But if Vendramini drags this fight to the ground, things could get very, very iffy for Ziam. Ziam obviously did kind of falter to Don Madge via grapple heavy approach, and that one was obviously very deterring. But Ziam put on a decent performance in his follow up fight against Jamie Mullarkey, that he showed that he can go out there and stick and move from a distance and kind of out volume his opponents, ending combinations with strikes or sorry with kicks. So that's another good thing that I really like about Ferris. Again, I hate when guys like these are kind of matched up against each other because they're both big question marks to me still. Vendramini, again, hasn't been that active as of late. The Ayari fight was a return after an extended layoff, yet he was able to go out there and get a relatively quick finish. I do like Ziam. I do think he'll his stick and move approach will work here. I think he'll be able to take this fight deep. I think he'll be able to go to a decision here, and I'm going to take him to win by decision. Again, not a very strong read here, but I do like Ziam to pull off the win here. But again, not huge huge confidence here. I could definitely see Vendramini pulling it off too. Seth Jones saying he likes Ziam even though both are questionable. Right there with you, my brother. Levi White Bull is saying Vendramini is underrated. He's coming for the win. I wouldn't be surprised. This fight will have very little of my money. I might just have Ziam on a super long shot parlay, but that's about it. BP is saying way more impressed by Ziam just because you got the back of Dos Santos, which was the mistake of Dos Santos to get his submission over position. Yep, I agree. Wael Al-Gaban, Ziam lost to Mullarkey. I swear, I'm pretty sure Ziam beat him, no? Or are you just saying that you think he won that fight? Oh. Give me a second. Okay. Maybe you just heard something outside. I apologize. Yeah, no, Ziam definitely beat Jamie Mullarkey last time around and by unanimous decision. You threw me for a loop. Ruvias has Vendra by decision. Blaze, that y'all that know that I'm the GOAT, but I don't like patting myself on the back too much, but I appreciate you, Blaze. MMA Kappa saying Ziam showed good improvements from the Madge Mullarkey fight. I expect to see even more this time around. Luigi style looks like he would gas in the latter rounds. All that fast twitch. I agree. I do think that Ziam does have the cardio advantage here. Glad that you brought that up. Drunk Driver saying biggest pass of the night. Take your unit and buy a six pack. Right there with you, my man. Matt Hudson, Vendramini sounds like a magician. I like him to pull off the upset. Wael Al-Gaban thinks that Ziam should have lost that fight. From my memory, I believe that Ziam deserved to win that fight. But again, very close fight, which is why I'm not too cognizant on actually betting this fight too heavily. All right, next up, we got Steven Ocho Peterson going up against Chase Hooper, and kind of surprised at the line movement in this fight. We got Chase Hooper, like I said, plus 100. Steven Peterson opened up as a minus 150 favorite. Now we got him at minus 120. Seems like people are going out there and really trusting Hooper in terms of being able to ground this fight. Am I one of those people? Nah. I think that Peterson keeps his fight vertical. He's a great product out of there from Fortis MMA. I don't want to call him a journeyman because that's a little bit of an insult, I think, but he is a solid gatekeeper-ish type of guy, a guy that can go out there and turn away fighters that don't really, I don't want to say don't deserve to be in the UFC, but don't deserve to be taking a step up past Peterson. I think Peterson is obviously the much better striker in this fight. I think he has a decent ground game of his own. Obviously, Hooper does have the advantage in the grappling realm if he's able to get the fight to the ground, but I think he's truly going to struggle here. Now, unless we see Hooper come out with an extremely improved striking game, just as we saw Brian Ortega come out from, in that Korean Zombie fight where we saw him go out there and actually put together solid combinations and outstrike Korean Zombie over 5 rounds, highly doubt Hooper wins this fight. kind of surprised at the amount of confidence that I'm seeing people have in Hooper in terms of being able to pull off the win here. I think Peterson will be able to light him up on the feet. I think Peterson's going to outstrike him. I think he'll be very disciplined and safe in his approach in terms of being able to keep this fight on the outside and get his striking off from there. But again, Peterson isn't this like guy that jumps off the page at you either. There's reason that he is as close of a favorite here as he is in this fight. 18-9. The guy's almost seen it all as well, right? In the UFC alone, he has wins over a beautiful spinning back fist win over Martin Bravo. He beat Matt Bissett in his second UFC fight, but he's lost fights to Brandon Davis, Luis Pena, and Alex Caceres. If he doesn't win this fight, it's a big red flag for me. But I do think he has the chops to go out there, keep this fight vertical, and completely outstrike Chase Hooper here. So I like Peterson. I'm gonna say by decision. I think he just outstrikes Hooper and keeps it at distance and doesn't overcommit on anything. But Peterson by KO plus 330 is kind of calling my name as well. Peterson by decision is plus 210, which isn't bad either. But yeah, I will ultimately go with Peterson by decision, as I do think he's the better overall fighter. And I think Hooper, I think he needed a little bit more cleaning up on the regional scene before making his UFC debut. And I think, they're going to do that once again once he takes an L here to Peterson. So I like Peterson. Super tough veteran, and I think he does a good job in terms of keeping this fight on the feet and outstriking Hooper over 15 minutes. Dan Goldstein is saying this fight is another land race between a turtle and the world's fastest fish. Hooper is still green. I absolutely agree with you, my guy, Planet Whisperer. Levi Whitebow, Chase Hooper by sub is the only way he wins. Worth a sprinkle. What is that line? That line probably isn't that great, though. Hooper by submission plus 240. So if you have some hope in Hooper, I think that's the best way to go for it. Ruvais Rahat saying can't put money on Hooper toward the trust. I agree. Megan's saying doesn't Hooper have chicken legs? Yeah, he does. So maybe Peterson will be able to go and chop that down too. Dan Goldstein saying I have the same confidence in Hooper that I do in my chance of banging to Felipe. Dan is slowly becoming one of my favorite guys in the chat. So shout out to Dan Goldstein. Paulo D'Alessandro is saying this is the biggest pass of the night. I feel like the UFC wants to build Hooper, but I can't see him winning this fight. I'd say the biggest pass of the night would be Vendramini and Faraz, but this is probably a close second. UCF Rob, Hooper has crazy subs, can get dominated and will still find a way to win. Yeah, just like that Peter Barrett fight, right? But luckily for Peterson's not Peter Barrett. Seth Jones, I like those odds by KO. Not too bad. BP Hooper gonna hop here. Revised like what happened in the Ricardo Hamush fight. Yep. Steven goes for TD's big worry here. I'd be surprised if he goes for takedowns here, to be honest. Martial arts fans, you're getting a little bit too ahead of yourself. We haven't gotten to the main event yet. My guy YBB, hope you're having a good night, Lock. Best of luck on your vet this weekend. Thank you, brother. Evo Steph got a new job working Saturdays until 9 p.m. PST. Any tips to watching the fight? This sucks. Damn, that does suck. Check it on your phone, I guess. Hopefully you get some Wi-Fi wherever you're at. George Medexopoulos is saying Pearson round 3 KO prop will get a sprinkle. Me likey. It's only going to get tougher for Chase Hooper, especially if he's not able to complete takedowns and he's just getting lit up by Peterson. Peterson in round 3 plus 1325. Me don't mind that at all. All right, let's move on to the next fight here. Well, just letting you guys know I'm going Peterson by decision. Next up, the fourth fight up, we got where is it? There we go. Matt Frevola minus 300 against Terrence McKinney, making his short notice UFC debut plus 240. Terrence McKinney is coming off a quick victory last time around. He just won in the LFA. I just want to get the date correct. Yeah, it was exactly a week ago. Last Friday, he pulled off a minute and 12-second knockout over Michael Irizarry. Absolutely butchered that name. I apologize. But what McKinney brings to the table, decent college wrestler from back in the day, has some wild-ish striking. He's a little bit of a banshee at times at the beginning of fights where he just comes forward and just tries to throw big bombs. He is erratic at times as well. Matt Frevola, we know what we're getting from him. I think if Frevola has a slightly better technical striking, I think his wrestling will be able to keep this fight competitive in the grappling realms, even though I believe that McKinney has a slight advantage there. Frevola, tough as hell, even though he got knocked out by Polo Reyes a couple fights ago. But I like this fight for Frevola. Do I trust him at minus 300? No. This fight's going to be a pass for me all in all, but I do lean Frevola here. I think he has the better, like I said, the better striking. His ability to keep the fight on the feet is great. McKinney taking this fight on short notice. Who knows what his cardio is going to look like if this fight does get taken into deeper waters. You know, people might kind of in response to that, they might be like, oh, McKinney just, he was in a training camp before. He just beat a guy last week. But again, you're talking about a guy that's been forced to cut weight twice now within 2 weeks, within a week's time, and taking a massive step up in competition here, especially making his UFC debut against somewhat of a weathered veteran now, and Matt Frevola, who's been in the UFC for a couple years. So I do like Frevola. I think he's going to land the better strikes. I think he could actually knock out McKinney as well. As I do think that McKinney is almost like a knockout or bust type of fighter himself. I don't think McKinney has ever even been to a third round, if I'm not mistaken. He's been to, actually I lied, he's been to 1/3 round, and that was about 3 years ago at this point in time. But most of his fights have been finishing inside the distance. What's the inside the distance line here? We got under 2.5 minus 200. Fight doesn't go to the decision minus 155. Don't mind that. And again, those are from two different websites, so we don't have the full props out yet. But I do think that this fight's going to be violence, and I think it's ultimately going to be Matt Frevola that gets the knockout. Last thing I will say about McKinney, most people will know him for getting knocked out by Sean Woodson back in 2019 on the Contender Series via flying knee. So not a good look there, obviously, for him. But yeah, he will have a tough time dealing with the power that's going to be coming his way from Matt Frevola. With that said, not super confident on playing him at minus 300 here, but it should be a super fun fight. So I'm going for Frevola via KO, probably second round. Ben asking any thoughts on the Bellator card tomorrow, or will you just be posting your Bellator bets on a Patreon? I will. So on later tonight, actually, super later tonight, I'm going to be releasing a prelim video as well as a main card video for Bellator. I'm going to drop that strictly on the Patreon. And then tomorrow at some point, I'll do a live stream where I quickly go over Bellator. I don't think I'm going to have any official bets on Bellator. But yeah, if you're on the Patreon, you guys will get a prelim and main card video later tonight. And then tomorrow, I'll probably do a live stream for it as well. Maybe half an hour, no longer than that. Apologies. Dan Goldstein, McKinney isn't bad and money is coming in on him. I was on Frevola against Frank because I knew what I was getting there, but this one scares me. I agree. Saifuddin Nurmatov, I feel fight doesn't go to decision. I like it. Frevola, get this decision. I think it's a finish, yeah. Frevola, minus 300. That's what I'm seeing right now. I think the line is a little bit too crazy wide. George Medixopoulos is saying live bet Frevola after first round, which he'll probably lose because the first round finished McKinney's path to victory. I absolutely agree. McKinney going to go for a head kick and slip, and Frevola going to take advantage. Could happen. You guys are still talking about Hooper and Peterson. Go ahead. I'm gonna continue to move on. MMA Kappa, after running tape on Frevola, I def underestimated him. Well-rounded and tough, even when he hurt, he doesn't lose confidence. I'll be sprinkling inside the distance for a steamroller. I will too, probably. I think that's his best way to win this fight. Rahat has also got Frevola by KO, but in case McKinney wins the first round. Oh. All right, I apologize. Now the wife is home. Alfred is gone. Don't have to worry about him barking and losing his mind and possibly popping your eardrums. I apologize for that, guys, but he's gone. No need to worry about it now. All right. Scared the shit out of me too, as you can see. Robot Chicken Wings. Locke is a genius. Great call on the Monkey King of Hype. Salute, my man. Yeah, I'm glad that I hit that one. Everybody knows that the wife is home now. So yeah, I got Frevola, but the wine is a little bit too wide for my liking. All right, let's move on to the next fight here. We got Patty Kianzad going up against Alexis Davis. We got plus 165 on Davis and minus 190 on Kianzad. You guys know I normally like sorry, I just want to address this by bout better. Every last minute weekly replacement loses. I'm trying to recall how late notice Kirk took his fight against Makwan last week, but he won. But you're right. Tabitha Ricci ends up getting demolished by Figueiredo. McKinney might end up getting McKinney might end up getting squashed as well. All right, Kianzad and Davis. You guys know I like me some Davis in terms of being able to, catch on her last time around against Sabina Mazo. I was one of the few guys that was on her. I thought that was a great path to victory for her in terms of grinding the fight and grinding it out. Kianzad, I feel like, will do a slightly better job than what Mazo brought to the table. Now, we did see Kianzad get grapple fucked by Sijara Eubanks in their first round of their fight, but after that, Kianzad was able to keep the fight vertical and kind of light her up on the feet for the next 2 rounds. Davis, I think, might have similar success in terms of landing that first takedown, but after that, I think that Kianzad will take over with their striking, manage to keep Davis at range. Kianzad's a big girl too, so I think she'll do a good job in terms of establishing her jab and keeping the fight on the outside so that she can get her striking going, and that Davis, will obviously be the much slower fighter, obviously not the greatest striking either, and I think that she will be unable to ground this fight, which is where she'll have the most amount of success. So I'll go with Patty Kianzad to outstrike Davis, and I think she wins this fight by decision, but I'm not going to have a crazy amount of confidence in this fight, as, again, it just takes 2 takedowns for Davis, I think. If she gets 1 takedown in 1 round and 1 takedown in the second round, it could be a wrap. So I'm not putting too much confidence in this spot, but I do like Kianzad. Minus 190 is a little bit too wide for me. If anything, you could even say that the value could potentially be on Davis in this spot, but I'm ultimately going to pick Kianzad to win the fight. Kianzad by decision is minus 135. Again, I'd like at least a plus number there. So I'll be passing on this fight all in all. But I do have Kianzad winning this fight by decision. Just be very careful because Davis could absolutely bust some parlays if you're throwing Kianzad in there just for the fuck of it. Ruvice likes Davis to pull off another upset. I could absolutely see it. Kenneth Wall is saying, good morning from Thailand. Early up here for the PFL. Enjoy the fights, my brother. Appreciate you stopping by as well. AG saying Kianzad via decision. I like that as well. Dan Goldstein said Kianzad might touch her up for at least 2 Davis boxes like Ray Charles sees. I like it. AG, love when Canadians pick against Canadians. Should have listened versus Bozer, even though he def won. Yeah. George Medixopoulos saying too many nice matchups on this card to spend any money on this fight. I agree. Zip Code is saying much love. Appreciate you stopping by, brother. All right, let's move on to the next fight here. We got Hakeem Dawodu versus Movsar Evloev, and this is probably the toughest fight for me to pick on the card. Not just because I don't feel like I have a great read on it. I think I have a decent enough read on the fight. Here we go. Minus 230 on Evloev, plus 190 on Dawodu. But you got my favorite prospect, Movsar Evloev, going up against the great Canadian hope and Hakeem Dawodu, the only Canadian that seems to have a legitimate shot at making some noise in his relative or in his division. But I think that this is a tough matchup for him. Now, I think the value is on Dawodu. And why I say that is because Evloev seems like he's been taking a striking heavy approach in his last several fights. His bread and butter would be the takedowns to try to grind this fight out, get into the clinch positions and try to, drag Dawodu to the ground. Not saying that Evloev is going to go into this being striking happy, but I could definitely see him going out there and, striking a little bit to eventually set up a takedown to get the fight to the ground. With that said, though, Dawodu does a decent job of keeping fights vertical and getting his game going. He's very strong and effective in the clinch with his Muay Thai approach. Evloev obviously improving in that instance, but I do think Dawodu has the advantages for as long as the fight's going to be in the striking realm. But there's always that threat of Evloev taking this fight to the ground over and over again. I see this fight being much closer than what the odds are indicating. And I think Evloev is just getting that Russian tax rub that the Russians always seem to get, just like Salikov did last time around too. And even though Salikov obviously ended up winning, I still do think that the odds were quite wide, just as I do think here. Ultimately, I do think Evloev will land takedowns. I do think that he'll be able to ground Dawodu, at least long enough in each round to at least secure 2 of those rounds. But as long as this fight is standing, my heart is going to be pumping the entire time. Actually, you know what? It's not going to be, because I'm going to be happy regardless who wins this fight. If Evloev loses, it's his first loss in 15 fights, so that's not too big of a detriment. And then if Dawodu loses, a step down in the ladder, but at least it's against a high-level opponent like Evloev. So I do like Evloev. I think he gets the takedowns. I think he grinds this fight out. But this is going to be a very, very tough fight for him, especially if he's not going to be effective enough in terms of guarding this fight over and over again. So, I like Evloev, not batting it high on anybody that's taken Dawodu, as I do think he has the advantage on the feet. And if he can, be effective in the clinch and be effective in the striking realms, things are going to get very, very hairy for Evloev. But I think that Evloev's wrestling will come through from here, and I think he wins this fight. Dan Goldstein saying, I want to bet Dawodu, talk me into a lock. Close fight. Plus 190, you can't go wrong. You're going to get value here, I think. And Cloud is saying Movsar Evloev seems a great bet. Hakeem is a bit overrated, no power and low output. I disagree that he's overrated. I agree that you're saying with the low output, no power thing, which is why I'm not as scared for Evloev here. Like if Dawodu was this crazy knockout puncher and had decent volume, I'd probably play him here. But and Cloud is correct in the low output argument, and exactly no power either. Nigel D'Souza is saying, I've got Evloev, but it's going to be a close split decision win. Could see that. George Menexopoulos saying, if Evloev decides to grapple, he will look like minus 500. I don't think he'll be as comfortable as people are making it seem with Evloev just grapple fucking in this fight. I think that's how he wins the fight, but I don't think he'll be as easy as most people are making it seem. Andrew Marchenko saying Evloev was getting outstruck in spots by an absolutely shot lens. There were some hairy situations for sure. Dawodu split decision. I can see that. Hakeem is huge. Peter Parker Evloev for the win. It's the first time I've heard that, but I see it. Beltbetter saying that Dawodu is a good counter grappler. Exactly. That's my hesitancy here. He does good work inside clinches, especially when guys are threatening with takedowns. Decent takedown defense. Tough fight. Evloev decision. Bryce D is saying Evloev is not a great bet. Minus 200 is insane after that fight with Nick Lentz. I think the Nick Lentz fight is a bit of an anomaly. Like I think that more of his fights in the future aren't going to be that close, but I do think this fight will be close. So Dawodu presents a lot of interesting counters to what Evloev brings to the table. Platinum Whisper, Evloev will have to grind him out to win. Outstrike with him, I agree. Better saying value on Dawodu all day. I agree. Bryce D, if you bet Evloev moneyline, you are square. Lentz has an extensive wrestling background. Better super quick and crisp with the strikes. Yeah, Dawodu is the much better striker for sure. A. Loomis, haven't seen Evloev take many leg kicks, and when he did, he showed, and Hakeem has some of the best leg kicks in my opinion. I think Hakeem slows him down and counters him. Jan Goldstein, I might bet the decision outcome either side if it pays 1.5 or more. This fight to go to decision is minus 240. So I think that's just slightly above 1.5 decimal odds, my guy. I'm hot with Hakeem moneyline locked. I don't mind it. Anthony Gibson is going to say Evloev will grind him out, possibly. AG Evloev wrestling and steady volume for decision win. Yep. Looks like we got a bit of a spammer here. Let me get rid of that. Nigel just was saying he kind of looks like Tobey Maguire. I absolutely agree. Wael Al-Gaban saying Evloev first time fighting in the States could make a difference too. Good point. He was scheduled to fight Nate Landwehr, if you guys remember, a couple months ago in the States. Didn't end up fighting him there, but he has been in the States for sure. Um, that's nice. Can we talk about phony guy? Yeah, we don't talk about him on this stream. He's a dork. Um, all right. So yeah, I got Evloev, but not the biggest not the biggest level of confidence there. All right, let's move on to the next fight here. We got Lauren Murphy going up against Joanne Calderwood. A fight that I was originally leaning with Lauren Murphy, but after running the tape, it's a little bit hard to take her. Now, I had this image in my head of Lauren Murphy, making improvements, especially since she moved her training camp down there to Houston, training with the same striking coach as Derek Lewis. Obviously, it's helped out with her in terms of being able to put together a decent winning streak at this point in time. But I do recall having money on Andrea Lee when she fought her back at UFC 247, and I thought that was a bad decision. She wins that fight. The fight before that, she finishes Mara Romero Barella in round 3, and she beats Roxanne Modafferi, and then obviously she beats Lilia Shakirova, who took the fight on super short notice back in October. uh, you know, Andrea Lee was doing a great job in that fight in terms of landing strikes and being the much better striker, being the faster striker. The volume was great and all that. The detriment or the unfortunate aspect of that fight for Andrea Lee was that at the ending of every single round, she got taken down. When there was like 30 or 40 seconds left in the round, she gets taken down. But Lauren Murphy wasn't doing much from on top. Luckily for her, the judges were actually scoring that, and I actually scored the fight for Lauren Murphy. For some reason, I want to say Lerone Murphy, but yeah, Murphy, her striking does look decent, but I think that Calderwood is going to have the speed advantage. I think she's going to be able to let her up on the feet. My worry for Calderwood backers is the potential of Murphy being the stronger fighter here, which I think she will be. And if she's able to tie Calderwood up against the cage, kind of like how Jessica I was successful in doing so in certain spots in her fight against Joanne Calderwood back in January, but I don't think that we'll see Murphy as successful with it. So it is a little bit of a concern for me for backing Calderwood is, potentially getting tied up against the cage there and giving up minutes there. So that's a little bit of an issue. But I do think that as long as this fight stays at space, at range, I think Calderwood absolutely lights up Murphy here. So I do like Calderwood to win via decision. My initial lean was Murphy, but after running the tape, I'm no longer that confident in it. So I am going to go with Joanne Calderwood, and I'm going to take her to win this fight via decision. Mixed pressure for us. Yes, I'm going to be doing another stream at 9 p.m. Eastern with Cody Saftik for our Propping You Up show. So make sure you guys stick around for that. Time is not allowing this thing. I have a 7-leg multi-event parlay hanging on Murphy, and I feel sick about it. I'd probably hedge out, put some Calderwood on that. Just trying to catch up with the chat here. Mixed pressure fights. Lerone Murphy and Lauren Murphy will have a child together named Leroy Murphy, and he'll be the code fighter. God, I like that. Anthony Gibson saying Calderwood by decapitation. I don't think she wins that decisively, but I do think she wins. All right, let's move on to the next fight here. Seems like we got all the juice out of that matchup. 14 fight card here, and we're halfway through it. So I do want to remind you guys, please do hit that like, hit that subscribe if you guys haven't already. Appreciate the love and support as always. Next up, we got a fight, a pretty much rematch. I believe this is the third rematch that we have on the card. We got Eric Anders going up against Darren Stewart minus 154, Anders a plus 130 for Stewart. If I'm correct, I believe the last time they were scheduled to fight each other, which was obviously the last time they fought, Eric Anders was a plus 155 dog, and we saw about 4.5 minutes of this fight, and that was all that we needed to see that Anders probably should have been favored in that fight. If you guys remembered, Anders switched training camps before that Darren Stewart fight. He went over there to fight ready in Arizona, and it seemed to pay off for him. Darren Stewart did have one good combination that landed early in the fight, and he was kind of being a little bit cocky about it. But then after that, Anders was able to, muster up some combinations up against the cage, hurt Darren Stewart a couple times, and then obviously even drag him to the ground a couple times. But then ultimately it was that illegal knee that he hit Stewart with about 17 or 18 seconds left in that first round. He was throwing the kitchen sink at him and even an illegal shot. And then I think it was more so the referee that didn't believe that Stewart was in it enough. Stewart, I believe, wanted to continue. Obviously, the shitty way for that fight to end. But now we get Eric Anders as the favorite here. And if I'm not mistaken, I do believe I picked Stewart to win last time. And this fight, I don't think it's as black and white as, Anders was winning the last fight, which is why he should probably win this fight. Because if it was Stewart that landed a big shot and had Anders on wobbly legs, it could have been a completely different situation, right? What did Anders truly show us in that fight? He hurt him, almost finished him. Great. But that's one sequence that requires him to hurt Stewart. Is that going to happen every single time? I'm not 100% sure. But I do think that Anders is the bigger, stronger guy in this situation, which should allow him to ground this fight when he needs to, and he should be able to outmuscle and outpower Stewart. But I don't think it's as black and white as Anders had him on the ropes last time, and he should be able to finish him this time around. So don't go lock of the night deep on Anders thinking that, just because he was beating him last time, he's going to beat him this time. Don't have that type of confidence because this is MMA. Anything could happen. These guys fight 10 times. Do you think the same thing's going to happen every single time? What if it's Stewart that lands the better combinations this time, right? I think that Stewart is technically the better striker here, but it's Anders' imposing nature, his stature, his physicality that I think will eventually be the difference maker in this spot. And I'd like to see how their cardio look as well, both of these guys, if this fight does get extended and go into deep waters. But ultimately, I will go Anders. I'm going to take him to win actually by... I don't think he finishes this time. I think he actually goes to a decision. I think he grinds him out. He showed in the clinch positions he's the much stronger guy. And again, these guys were slowing down, but they were going at a hellacious pace in that first round too. So we'll see how this fight turns out. But I will go with the favorite this time. And Anders, I'll go by decision, but no real confidence in this spot. Goodness, man, pray you 365 play MMA are too synchronicant. Interesting. That's my guy, Newsom. Newsom is my guy. We do the tape and next together, right? Sweet Didi is saying being strong gets you in dominant position. Jojo's not strong, has been shown to break in there, and also has bad jiu-jitsu. Yeah. Bryce D saying Darren Stroll was minus 200 last time. Yep. MMA Kappa NZ saying does Stewart sounds like he's in a way better place. This first camp up at 205 went into detail about his last one, rough cut, taking a stab at Jamaican Englishman. Could work out this time. Who knows? Weird that this fight is actually 205 pounds. Last fight was at 185, right? Mixed martial arts. Stewart can only throw, and he's good at striking, but his wrestling ground game needs some serious work. Andrew Marchenko saying Anders seems like a lock, and a great option for DK. Finally got into a good camp. Do you like Anders for DK lock? I think he's a decent spot for DraftKings, but I don't think he's a lock of the night material, as I believe that there are much easier fights on this card to call. That boy B saying the dentist is the better striker and has the better chin, but Anders has been through that Nick Saban life, cardio and decision to Anders. I agree. All right. All right, let's move on to the next fight here. We got I believe this is the prelim headliner, and this should be a banger between Brad Riddell and Drew Dober. I'm very much looking forward to this fight. I do ever so slightly lean the favorite here in Drew Dober. I do think he's a great striker. I think he's almost on par with what Brad Riddell brings to the table, but I do think that Drew Dober has some grappling prowess in his back pocket that he can lean on if he needs to here. We've seen him go from being a striker to a grappler back to a striker, and obviously last time around he could definitely not be a grappler against a guy like Islam Makhachev, and Makhachev did a really good job in terms of grounding that fight and then pulling off the submission. Luckily for Dober, he's going up against Riddell now, who, primarily I expect this to be a striking fight. I do think that Dober is slightly better in the pocket. I think he makes better decisions. Great combinations, great footwork. Obviously, great cardio as well coming out of Denver. Riddell, I'm still not completely sold on. I still think that he needs to have some better, tougher fighters ahead of him, right? Beating Alex De Silva, beating Jamie Malarkey, that's all good and well and all that stuff. But once you start taking steps up, like he was originally scheduled to fight Gregor Gillespie a couple months ago, that would have been a great test to see where he's at. But this is a great test for him too against Drew Dober here, against another striker who's probably going to go and exchange in the pocket with him at times. But I do think that Dober will get the better of him here. I think he's the better striker. I think he has better pressure as well. I think that Dober might be the one that's going to be pushing the pace in this spot. I think he's going to stay in Riddell's face and kind of disrupt his flow, not really let Riddell get his striking off. And I think that's where Riddell would truly struggle, which is why I like Dober to win this fight. I think both guys are quite durable, so I'll actually go with this fight going to a decision, but I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, these are those spots where I potentially see it as a trap if you're taking the under in a fight between two mainly strikers, right? The under 2.5 is at plus 150. And from the outside looking in, you think that these guys are going to go out there and bang with each other, which would probably go in part with the under 2.5 and probably make a good case for that plus 150. But I think it's one of those trap spots. There's plenty of times where we see two strikers that go out there and just have a disciplined striking matchup. And that's what I'm expecting to see here with Dober and Riddell. But I think that Dober will have his foot on the gas a little bit more, and he'll actually get his hand raised via decision in this spot. So close fight. But I do think that the Doberman, I believe that's his nickname. Am I wrong? Drew Dober, whatever. Drew Dober, I think he gets his hand raised in this fight and, rebounds off that loss that he had to Mr. Makhachev last time around. BP is leaning Riddell. Bryce D thinks that Dober's power is too much. That boy B, Dober actually showed promise against Makhachev. Dober is game. Riddell is a better idea than he is a fighter. I like that quote. That's a solid quote. Capra comparison pick saying Dober versus Riddell is the toughest fight to predict. I flip-flopped twice already. I'm leaning Riddell. Planet Whisperer, Dober wins by experience, more output. Yep, I could see that. Quapooch saying, did he drop his lock yet? My lock will strictly be found on the Patreon. So check that link in the description, $5 a month. I'm on a 3-event winning streak, which is my policy. I need to be on a 3-event winning streak or longer for my picks to be behind my Patreon paywall. That's exactly where it is. So once I hit my next losing event, that's when you guys will get my Lock of the Night plays for free. Dan Goldstein, I took a half unit poke on Riddell. Wish I'd wait because the line has widened, but it's still close. Yeah, it is a close fight, but I do like Dober. Carlos A. Dober is a beast if you stand with him. I agree. Mixed partial for us. Dober, a great grappler, and usually will have his way as long as it ain't somebody like Islam Makhachev. I agree. But better, Dober best value favorite on the card and will be a better ROI fight time at even. Probably, you're right. Noah Allen, Dober is about to knock Riddell out cold in the first. Shitty kickboxing is overrated, especially the striking defense. Interesting. Sweet Didi got Riddell by decision. Nigel D'Souza, I've seen a lot of people are taking Riddell, but this is a big step in my opinion, and Dober has KO power. I agree. Mixed martial arts saying I see Dober better everywhere. I agree with that. Just trying to catch up here. Great Son saying, you always a winner in my book, Luck of the Night. I appreciate that, my brother. All right, let's move on to the next one. You guys can continue bantering about Calderwood and Murphy. I'm going to keep the train moving on. All right, that brings us to our main card, where we kick off with highly chalked Jamal Hill going up against Paul Craig. We got minus 290 on Hill and plus 245 on Paul Craig. Pretty straightforward fight to break down here, right? You got the undefeated Jamal Hill going out there and wanting to keep this fight in the striking realm. He definitely has a much better striking technique, not to mention the much more power on the feet. Paul Craig wants to get this fight to the ground for the life of him so that he could potentially tie up Jamal Hill into knots, but I don't think he'll be able to do so. I was one of those guys that wasn't a big Jamal Hill believer back in the day. A couple fights ago, I think I faded him with Clitson Abreu. I can't recall that, but that was the fight that truly sold me on him. And if I'm not mistaken, I did bet on him against Ovin St. Preux, as I thought that was a great fight for him to do exactly what he did, which was put a striking clinic on Ovin St. Preux. I expect him to do the same thing here against Craig. I think he needs to be slightly disciplined in terms of making sure that he doesn't overextend on punches. Excuse me. And let himself get taken down by Paul Craig, who will obviously have the advantage in the jiu-jitsu realm here. But I do think that Hill is making improvements everywhere. He's 30 years old, just turned 30 a couple of days ago, if I'm not mistaken, or a couple of months ago. I could be off, but I know this year was the year that he actually turned 30. But he's progressing at a solid rate, man. His striking is great. A lot of power, great body kicks. I just don't see how Paul Craig truly survives the onslaught that he's going to have to go through with Jamal Hill here. Not to mention, this is a grudge match. These guys have been chirping at each other, especially with the first time that they're scheduled to fight back in March. And that's probably lit a fire even more under both guys' butts. But I think that it's ultimately going to be Jamal Hill that puts a beating on Paul Craig here and knocks him out. I'm going to go first round knockout for Jamal Hill. Again, very simple to break down. Hill, striker, Craig, grappler. Hill, much better striker than Craig is a grappler, in my opinion. And I think that Hill will go out there and absolutely starch him on the feet. So I'm going Jamal Hill via KO. Robo AC, everyone close the live chat and hit the like. It give Lock more luck with his picks. That would be great. I will bet you right now. Okay, I'm not going to even bother with that. Carlos say, I have no idea why I'm throwing Jamal Hill in all my parlays, but I did it. I don't blame you. Gilberto Castillo is saying, just subscribe. Good picks too, brother. I appreciate you, my guy. That boy B, I don't see how Paul Craig gets through the first round. He's not going to take Jamal Hill down. If that doesn't happen, he doesn't have a chance, period. Parlay it. Right there with you, my guy. Hill, Craig not goes to decision. I'm sure that's chalky as fuck, but yeah, that's a pretty good spot. Fight doesn't go to decision, minus 285. Not as chalky as I thought it would be. Under 2.5 is minus 215. Not bad either. Under 1.5 plus 100, I don't mind that spot either. Capper comparison picks. Hill does get taken down, but pops right back up every time. I think Craig will struggle to get him to the ground, to be honest. Platinum Whisperer, Craig is going to go to submit and has every advantage on the ground. Hill is going for the knockout right out of the gate. Tony Trill, I appreciate you stopping by. But don't be spamming my chat like that. Robot Chicken Wings, Paul Craig is a fluke artist. I agree. All right. That's a wrap on that. Next up, we got Paul Muhammad going up against Demian Maia. And if you guys remember at the beginning of the stream, I was like, I might be suckered into another 40-plus-year-old Brazilian, like I was with Jacare Souza, like I was against last week with Francisco Trinaldo. But man, I don't know what it is about Demian Maia, but I feel as though he has a good shot to go out there and latch on to Bilal Muhammad somehow, take his back and find the submission. Now, Bilal Muhammad has not faced a grappler to the level of Demian Maia in his UFC career, at least not to my knowledge. I think Vicente Luque might be the closest thing, but even him, not to the level of Demian Maia. I think Demian Maia is one of those guys that can still go out there and grapple with the best of them, even at this age. And luckily for him, I don't think he has much knockout power that he needs to worry about coming from the Bilal Muhammad side of things. I think the way Bilal wins this fight is keeping it at distance, leg kicks, distance striking, but it's probably going to take him the full 15 minutes to do so. And if you're giving me 15 minutes for Demian Maia to potentially find a submission or at least latch on to Bilal Muhammad somehow, force him up against the cage in a weird clinch position, he could find his back, find a weird trip, pull guard, whatever it is. I think Muhammad will struggle with the grappling of Damian Maia. The only reason I'm even, goddamn, I am going to pick Damian Maia to win this fight. I am going to pick him to win by submission. Will it be a bet though? Probably not. Maia by submission is plus 405. I think that's worth a little bit of a sprinkle. I might sprinkle that at least. But I do think that the line is a little bit too wide here. I think Belal Muhammad is just getting the love of the fans recently, decent winning streak that he's currently on. Not to mention, steps in on short notice against Leon Edwards. He's a great personality too, right? He has a show, Remember the Name, obviously very active on the social medias, creating a following for himself there. But I think that Maia, again, not having to deal with a knockout threat, not having to deal with somebody that's going to completely destroy him. I think Maia can do a good enough job in terms of keeping this fight close, finding those clinch positions up against the cage, and then dragging this to the ground and then getting his jiu-jitsu going. Let's not forget, Maia is a big dude. He's a big dude for sure. I just want to get the exact metrics here. We got 6'1" with the 72-inch reach, but he is a very wide dude. I believe Belal Muhammad, 5'11" with the 71-inch reach. So he's given up, what is that, 2-3 inch discrepancy there in terms of height. But again, Maia is a deceptively very strong individual. Just ask Lyman Good, who looks like he's carved out of fucking stone. And Damian Maia was still able to wrap him up and eventually find the submission there. So don't underestimate Damian Maia in this spot. I think there are other favorites that are roughly in this price range of Belal Muhammad that are a lot safer, but I do like Damian Maia here. Won't be my dog of the night play. I'll let you guys know that one, but I will pick him here to pull off the upset. Why you'll Gaban saying don't pick another 40-year-old. Robot Chicken Wings, Maia's legend. I might pick him. Wael has Belal on all his parlays. Careful, brother. Careful. Robot Chicken Wings. Maia's cardio does worry me. Me too. But if he does get those positions where he wraps up Belal and gets him into his zone, he could steal 2 rounds. Who knows? Spencer Skaggs, is this a good parlay card? I think there's like 2 or 3 good spots to parlay here. That's about it. Actually, I'd say 3 or 4 good spots to parlay here, but not a full parlay card. Be very careful. Mixed martial arts, LOL, Mohammed by boring, horrible decision. He's really good on the ground. He's going to avoid the subs. Maia's really old. I believe Belal will be in trouble if this fight hits the ground. Bryce D, right on the head here. Belal hasn't been tested by this high level of BJJ. Exactly. Belal is a really good grappler. His stand-up isn't great. That's why Leon pieced him up. Belal Muhammad is like a Khabib, a grappling heavy fighter. He won't get subbed by old man Maia. I disagree. I disagree with that. But better is Belal as good at takedown defense as Colby? I don't think so. But again, it might not be a takedown. It might just be one of those clinch positions. Like Damian Maia just might even just jump on his back like he did against the Lyman Good, right? Again, I think this fight is a lot sketchier than the minus 225 indicates. Bryce D saying Maia mounts him and subs him in round 1. God damn. Good point. Bob Bear saying Rufus Sport decline like Jackson Wink. Yeah, you don't see it repped as much as often, right? A lot of guys leaving it too. All right, let's move on to the first 5-round fight that we got for the night. Leon Edwards, or sorry, just to let you guys know, I'm going Maia. I'll go Maia first or second round submission. I will probably poke the plus 400 Maia submission prop as well. All right. Leon Edwards against Nate Diaz. Do I really need to go into this one too deep? I do have Edwards here. I think he is rightfully priced. I think people, if they're trying to make a case for Nate Diaz, they're probably just a big fan of his. How does Nate Diaz win this fight? I think his best way to win this fight is volume. And probably out cardioing Leon Edwards. As we've seen Leon Edwards slightly slow down in 5-round fights in the past. He's won a couple round 4s and round 5s, but he's also lost a couple as well. So that's something that we need to keep an eye on in this fight. You got to believe that he's ready for the cardio advantage that Diaz will have, though, right? Which is why I'm kind of surprised that people are taking Edwards inside the distance. I see the approach, especially with this like elbow heavy attack that he has at times. He might be able to cut up Nate Diaz. He might be able to force another stoppage like Diaz's last fight. But I think that Diaz is hella durable. So I think what Leon Edwards is actually going to do here is mix in that grapple heavy approach that he's done in a couple of his fights, right? Diaz obviously the better jiu-jitsu player, but I don't think it's great enough to the point that we're going to have to worry about Edwards getting submitted with Diaz off of his back. I think Edwards is the better technical striker. I think he has more power, albeit I think he's more of a technical disciplined striker than he is a guy that's going to go out there and try to take your head off. Again, he does a good job in terms of with his fight IQ, grounding fights when he needs to win rounds, clinching when he needs to, and then again, staying at distance and outstriking his opponents when he needs to as well. Edwards will be the slightly bigger fighter here as well, which I think will play in part with him being able to muscle Diaz around. Diaz, not the greatest takedown defense and might rely too heavily on his jiu-jitsu off of his back, which will give him trouble here. I think Edwards, he might look to go out there at least win 2 of these rounds off of takedowns and control time alone, so that he could at least have the cardio to go out there in rounds 4 and 5 and be competent enough to at least win 1 of those rounds, and 2 not to get finished by Diaz, who likes to turn the heat up the later that fights go. But Edwards, man, he's a problem. There's a reason he's minus 600. In the public eye, he's not the most beloved character in the MMA realm or anything like that. But he still has the chops to go out there and have solid wins over solid competition like he has had in his past several fights. It's just been his inactivity, right? He's had 1 fight since July of 2019, and it was no contest a couple months ago against Bilal Muhammad. So I do like Edwards here. I think he grinds out Diaz, though. I think he, outstrikes him a couple rounds, controls him for a couple rounds. But I'd be very surprised if Diaz actually pulls off this fight. Diaz is all hype at this point in time, right? He's still riding that Conor McGregor train. Luckily for him, he was able to still pick up a victory after that stretch against Anthony Pettis, but he's only 1-1 in that amount of time, right? Since the last Conor McGregor fight. So I do think that Edwards is like championship ready at this point in time, and that Diaz is just here for a paycheck. He's probably getting paid a solid, a 7 figures at this point. Collect a paycheck, get the fuck out of here for another couple of years, and then come back. But yeah, I do like Edwards here, and I do like him to win this fight via decision. And yeah, that's what I'll be going with. I think he is definitely parlayable, even at minus 600. Sweet DD, I always towards the line on Edwards win by doctor stoppage. It's by KO pretty much. I think if it's a doctor stoppage, it's a KO. Planet Whisperer, Edwards by doctor stoppage. Ben saying Diaz's best chance to win this fight is if Leon blows both his knees out, or if a Chris Weidman Anderson Silva leg break happens. Leon is going to beat the crap out of Nathan right there, would you? Capper comparison picks. Why is this fight 5 rounds, and to whose advantage is that it's 5 rounds? I think it's slightly to the advantage of Diaz, but I don't think it's that it's an advantage that he'll be able to take advantage of. As redundant as that sounds, hopefully that makes sense. But I think it's the Nate Diaz effect as to why it's 5 rounds. I think he demanded for it to be 5 rounds. So UFC is going to cooperate if they can get a moneymaker on their pay-per-view. Andrew Marchenko saying, I'm dropping bets Edwards round 3 and round 4. It has to be a doctor stoppage. Nate's face is a graveyard. Don't get too sucked into that narrative. Like, yeah, he bleeds easy and all that stuff, right? But don't get sucked into the narrative that he's always going to lose by TKO cut now. Could happen, but I don't think so. Wael Agabang, I can see Nate beating Leon over a 40-year-old win a fight, bro. Edwards hasn't been 5 rounds, and Diaz has a killer cardio live betting odd prop slate. You are incorrect. Edwards has been 5 rounds at least twice from the memory off the top of my head. The Cowboy fight and the Rafael dos Anjos fight. Palive Law is saying Leon being a smart fighter will take the safe decision win. I agree. Planet Whisperer saying, oh, sorry, Ben saying to Planet Whisperer, Leon and Nate have both been 5 rounds twice. Leon 50-45 his opponents while Nate got the crap beat out of him by Benson and then the Connor 2 fight. I think Leon won his fights, but I don't think they were 50-45s. I think he did drop at least a round or two in that Dos Anjos and Cowboy fights. Belt better. Where's the best utility of Edwards for your investment? None. It's Dogger Pass. No value in Edwards and a parlay. He pays plus 47 with the best other legs. I disagree. I still think he's a very good spot to, spruce it up a bit. Like you take Leon Edwards at minus 600 and put him with Jamal Hill per se, just another big favorite. It takes Jamal Hill from minus 290 to minus 176. Or who's another somewhat big favorite that I have confidence in? Even Davison, minus 210. Davison now minus 138. I think it's decent enough to throw him in there to add a little bit more value to your parlay. Again, we don't have to agree on it, but that's just kind of my spot. Let's see. And Claude, why are Nate Diaz fans delusional? Is what it is. Diaz is wolf money, but him at plus 400 is worth a sprinkle. Personally, I disagree. About better, Manpreet, please explain to us how a minus 600 favor is beneficial to a parlay. I think I just explained it. I think it adds enough value. Again, with how one-sided I expect this fight to be, I think it adds enough value. And Diaz looked much more gassed than Masvidal. It's easier to throw punches than to receive them. No advantage for Nathan cardio if you're going to get beating every second of the fight. All right. All right, let's move on to the co-main event now. We got the rematch between Davison Figueiredo going up against Brandon Moreno. Yeah, the first time they were scheduled to fight back, or when they did first fight back in December, Figueiredo was the minus 320 favorite. Obviously, they battled to a draw. Figueiredo did get a point taken away in that third round for an inadvertent groin shot. The referee did deem it significant enough for it to affect the remainder of the fight, which is why they ended up taking a point away from him. If that point did not get taken away, which I don't think it should have, Figueiredo wins the fight 48-47, no issues, right? It was a majority draw too, but I believe one judge at least had Figueiredo up 4 rounds to 1, if I'm not mistaken. I think Figueiredo still wins this fight. Both guys are going to have a full training camp now. If you guys remember, they both fought at UFC 255 in November. Figueiredo getting a quick win over Alex Perez. Brandon Moreno getting a quick TKO injury win over Brandon Royval. The UFC 256 main event falls off. I can't remember what it was. And in steps Figueiredo and Moreno to save the day. And they deliver on a crazy fight of the year type of fight. A great fight. And I'm glad that they're able to run it back here. But with a full 3-month training camp to prepare for either guy, I think it still favors Figueiredo here. It's so hard to deal with this style of just moving forward, throwing big shots, and being stalked by a guy like Figueiredo, right? Figueiredo just keeps his foot on that front, or keeps the front foot, keeps pressuring his opponents, and they usually wilt under it. They usually show some intimidation. Moreno was in that fight the entire time, though, right? He won a couple rounds in that fight, and his durability was absolutely off the chain. So that should give him some confidence coming to this fight for the second time against Figueiredo. But I still think he's going to have trouble dealing with the big power that Figgy brings to the table here. Figueiredo also very springy off of his back, right? There wasn't often that Moreno, when landing a takedown, was able to keep Figueiredo down long enough to truly control him and land some good damage from on top. I think there was one instance in the fourth round where he was having some good success from on top, but every other time Figueiredo did a good job in terms of springing back to his feet and then unleashing hell on the feet, just as he always does. There was that point in the fifth round where Joe Rogan was talking about Moreno possibly have broken his arm or his forearm or something like that. Moreno talked about it afterwards. He said it was just his shoulder that was feeling super sore from all the jabs that he was landing. So nothing broken there. It just seemed like he took us a notch down from what he had in round 4, and Figueiredo was able to squeak out that fifth round and ultimately, save himself for getting that draw by winning that fifth round. But I do think that Moreno is ultimately still going to be on his back foot for the majority of this fight. I think Figueiredo will be even in better shape this time around to go the full 5 rounds, to at least notch 3 of those. I am seeing some people confident in thinking that Figueiredo is going to be able to get the finish this time around. I think the KO prop or inside the distance prop was plus 200. But I think that Moreno is just super durable. I think it's going to be tough to put him away with punches, with submission, whatever the hell it might be. If there is a finish for Figueiredo, I think it would be a submission more than a knockout, maybe a club and sub type of situation. But I do think that Figueiredo wins this fight via decision. It's just going to, it will look similar to the first fight, but we'll see the more fresh as the fight goes. But I do think that Figueiredo will land the better strikes. Obviously look more imposing, more octagon control, being on the front foot, pushing the pace, dictating the pace of the fight. I think that will ultimately get him get his hand raised by the judges. And again, minus 210, not a bad spot for a fighter that we know is quite reliable. So yeah, I do like Mr. Figueiredo to win this fight via decision. Oh, Bryce T saying, seeing people say Moreno won still to me is insane. Yeah, I thought it was 3-2 for Figueiredo at worst. Yes, Jamie Tran. Fig and Cody were supposed to main event 255, but it was 256 that I'm actually talking about. 256, there was another main event that fell out, which is why Figueiredo bounced back so quickly. All right. That brings us to our main event, where we got Israel Adesanya going up against Marvin Vettori, minus 260 on the champ, plus 220 on Vettori. I believe the first time they were scheduled to fight each other, when Adesanya beat him by split decision, it was minus 245 for Israel Adesanya and plus 205-ish for Vettori. Now, I'm on the underdog here. I like Vettori. I think, and it's not strictly because of the Blachowicz fight for Adesanya. We saw the later that the fight went, the more successful Blachowicz was with landing the takedowns and kind of reading the game that Adesanya was bringing to the table, right? You had Adesanya, who had both guys, Vettori and Blachowicz, and a lot of his past opponents heavily biting on all of his feints. And that's a big part of Adesanya's game, is tricking you with the feints and tricking you with that extra work from the outside. And then he ultimately uncorks his combinations and his kicks. And that's how he's usually able to win his fights, either by decision or by knocking his opponents out. But, it does seem that he has a little bit of an issue off of his back. And there weren't a lot of fighters that were able to capitalize on that, right? When you go through all of Adesanya's fights in the UFC, the only 2 fighters that were able to capitalize on his grappling deficiencies were Vettori in the third round of their fight, and then Blachowicz, obviously, in the last 2 or 3 rounds of that fight, too. Adesanya would always do a good job with his takedown defense, or whenever he would get taken down, he did a good job of scooting his butt back to the cage and getting back to his feet, or, just springing back to his feet, not settling on back. But Vettori did a good job of nullifying that, keeping him on the ground. Blachowicz did the same thing, keeping him on the ground. Vettori is durable enough, in my opinion, that he'll be able to eat the shots of Adesanya long enough for him to eventually close the distance and drag the fight to the ground and just grind him out. Vettori is a big dude. I don't know what kind of, vitamins he's taken over there, but he's definitely a big dude, and I think he's even much stronger than what he was when he fought Adesanya a couple of years ago. I think Adesanya, if he can't nullify the forward pressure of Vettori, I think he's going to have some trouble. Whether it's Adesanya laying on that calf kick as soon as the bell rings, that could be a good way for him to slow down Vettori and possibly get out of the way of the big, takedown shots that are going to be coming his way from Vettori. That's probably the best way that Adesanya wins this fight, is the Paulo Costa fight approach. Just go out there, beat up the lead leg, especially the calf of Vettori, and that should help you open up the striking. If he's not able to, then he's going to run into some trouble. Vettori did a good job of kind of nullifying the kicking heavy approach of Adesanya last time around. And even though Vettori lost the first 2 rounds, he did a good job in that 3rd round. And it seems the longer fights go on and the stronger you are compared to Adesanya, the more successful you'll be in later rounds with taking him down and grinding him out. And I think that's what Vettori will do here. Another thing I'll say about Vettori, last time he fought Adesanya, that was his first full training camp at King's MMA. Now he's had several fights to truly be comfortable and find his groove at King's MMA, pick up all the things that he needs to from a Rafael Cordeiro to be a true, well-rounded mixed martial artist. And I think that's what we're going to see here against Adesanya. So as long as he doesn't get knocked out, as long as he doesn't get his front leg chewed up by Adesanya, I think Vettori closes the distance time and time again, drags this fight to the ground over and over again, and racks up a bunch of control time. It's funny that we saw 2 different sides of Vettori in his last 2 fights. Kevin Holland fight, he gets 20 minutes of control time, but that's Kevin Holland. The fight before that, Jack Hermansson, a grapple-heavy fighter, you see Vettori go out there and outstrike him from 4 out of 5 rounds. It seemed like Vettori took off the 3rd round just to get his wits about him again, and then goes out there and puts on a pace on him in the 4th and 5th round to secure his victory via decision. So I do like Vettori here. I do like him by decision because I do think he'll get the control time that he needs to nullify the game of Adesanya. So Vettori via decision is plus 4 or 5. I think he has enough value even at the plus 200-ish range that he's currently at. And again, I know I might be accused of the guy that's just jumping bandwagons now, right? You see Adesanya go out there and grapple fucked in his last time. That means everybody's going to be able to grapple fuck him. I don't think so. But I just think that Vettori has the chops to go out there and implement the game that he needs to. And we've already seen him do it in 1 full round. If he had rounds 4 and 5 that time around against Adesanya, how does that fight look? Probably just like the Blachowicz fight. So now we're getting a better Vettori. I'm hoping Adesanya's been working on his takedown defense and working to get back to his feet, but it seems like he's a bit of fish out of water off of his back. So I'm going with Vettori. I'm going with Vettori via decision. I think he springs the upset here. And I think this mythical thing that we have of Adesanya slowly getting shattered as every fight goes by. And I think this is another spot where Vettori pulls off the upset. So I'm going to Vettori via decision. And you. All right, let's see what the rest of the chat is saying here. And then I'm going to get up on out of here. Dan Goldstein saying there's no value on Izzy in the props. I'm going to pass on this. I agree the value is on Marvin for sure. I'm an Izzy simp though, so I won't be betting this fight at all. A Loomis in the first fight, there was times where Marvin was lost faking eye poke on the elbow that rocked him. Yeah, that was a weird one. Bleed the bookies. I also think Vettori will be so much on top in the late rounds that Gabe Bender will come out the closet afterwards. And Cloud, I'm so glad you're also on Vettori. So many people underestimating Vettori is ridiculous. They all think Izzy will breeze right through him. I disagree. Killer G, whoa, Lock, you throwing a curveball with Vettori. I think Adesanya cruises. Best of luck to everyone this weekend. BP, y'all must forgot on my mama. Izzy beat this fool. Did you watch the fight? Careful. Watch the last fight, BP. Dan Ghosting, if Marvin is betting on feints last time, Izzy can freeze him and slow him down. Again, it seems like Vettori and Blachowicz were biting early on in their fights. And then as the fights go on, they felt the power of Israel. And they're just like, oh, fuck it. Let's just go forward now. I don't care about his feints. And I think they're going to bring, Vettori might bring that same type of energy here, but a lot earlier than he did in his last fight. Sweet DD, I'm on Vettori too. Got him via decision at plus 450. I like that. I've never been too high on either fight, so it's a scary one. But if Vettori wins this by decision plus 450 on a close fight, I agree. All All right, Tony Tro, I love you, but you gotta. I ain't doing this, my guy. Love you. Peace out, though. Revising Adesanya by Kamehameha. But better Glendale is a big octagon advantage. Izzy, possibly. Yeah, this is another interesting thing, right? The last time they fought was in the same arena that they're fighting in this time. Hilarious. Gila River Resort, I think it was. I don't recall if that was a big cage or not. Again, I'm not a huge proponent and thinking that it has a huge effect on how the fight plays out. Imagine the crowd if Vettori grapple fucks Izzy. Shit, I would get the whole crowd to throw their beer in the octagon. That's his way to win, man. That's his way to win. Los is saying, I don't know, Polish power was just crazy big. I think Izzy gets up and stuffs most takedowns. Vettori's a big 185er as well. He's a big 205er. How fucking insane would it be for Marvin Vettori to be the champ? He's had zero chance against Rob. Yeah, I think the Whitaker fight is a much different fight. I'd actually favor Whitaker if Vettori and him fought. Wael Agaban, no way Izzy gets him up if Vettori takes him down. I agree. He has not changed my mind, but I'm now on the fence. Jared is saying, I don't think that will happen, but I wouldn't really be that surprised if it did fall apart for Izzy in the later rounds. Izzy fights are always hard to predict for me for whatever reason. Ben, peace out. Yes, I will be out of here very shortly. All right, that's a wrap. Appreciate you guys joining me as always. Make sure you guys hit that like, hit that subscribe. Enjoy PFL. I believe PFL is on right now, so make sure you guys go enjoy that. But I will be back at 9 p.m. Eastern, so an hour and a half from right now. I'm going to be back on for propping you up with Cody. We had to push it back for an hour, unfortunately. Normally it's 8 o'clock. We did have to push it back, not because I was doing my stream today. Cody had requested to push it back an hour, so I obliged. And luckily enough, it was enough time for me to do my own stream because I wasn't able to do it earlier on in the week. So once again, 9 p.m. Eastern, me and Cody are going to be propping you up right here on this channel. So if you guys are able to come back and watch PFL on in the background, we will be doing the same. And you guys are going to be able to hear my thoughts on the props for all of these fights that I just broke down for you guys. So once again, I'll see you guys in an hour and a half, propping you up, me and Cody. If you guys haven't already, make sure you guys hit that like and subscribe. And shout out to my guy, Nicholas West, $25 donation. Appreciate it. The donations are always appreciated. I appreciate you guys as always. But yeah, looks like Chris Wade just pulled off a comeback KO. Good for Chris Wade. All right, see you guys at 9 p.m. Eastern. We'll be back for propping you up. Peace.